AAC Users Feedback Survey 2020.
Hi, my name is Kim.
Hi, my name is Andy.
In March 2018, a new law was introduced in Scotland giving people the right to be given communication equipment and the support needed to use it. I will now pass you over to Andy.
We ask people who have received communication equipment and the support needed to use it the following questions. Question 1. Have you used communication services, or have you received communication equipment since March 2018? In order to proceed with this survey, the AAC users would have answered yes to this question. Question 2. We asked the users of the communication equipment, did you know where to contact to arrange to have an assessment carried out? Based on this feedback that we received was that 78% of these people knew who to contact to arrange an assessment, and 22% of people who we asked didn't know. The people who didn't know who to contact for a communication assessment were steered in the right direction by either their social worker or the staff at their school. Question 3. We asked if communication services were different compared to communication services that you received before March 2018. Based on this feedback that we received was that 55.56% of the people noticed an improvement in their communication service. 33.33% of the people didn't notice any improvements in the service at all, and 11.11% of the people didn't answer this question. The feedback was mixed. Some people noticed that the speech therapist listened to them more carefully. Some people noticed less waiting time for an assessment. Some people didn't notice any difference in this service. Possibly too busy or understaffed, some people thought. Listening improved. Assessment waiting time down. Possibly an overstretched service. Question 4. We asked users of communication equipment, did you think that you waited a reasonable amount of time before your assessment? Summary: amount of time before assessment. %40 of people waited under 3 months. 40% of people waited 3 to 6 months. 20% of the people are still in the process of being assessed. People who followed the assessment process were happy. Question 5. We asked the users of the communication equipment if the assessment had identified all that you need and everything that you aim to achieve through being able to communicate better. Based on this feedback that we received was that 55.56% of the people felt that their personal goals had been identified. 33.33% of the people didn't feel that their personal goals had been met yet, and 11.11% of the people didn't answer this question. Some people had set their own goals before the assessment. Some people are still going through this process. Some people wanted to wait until they got familiar with the AAC equipment. Question 6. We asked users of communication equipment, were you given the chance to try different types of communication equipment at your assessment? 90% of the AAC equipment users said yes and 10% said no. Most people had tried different types of communication equipment during the assessment. One person knew what type of communication equipment that they needed. Question 7. Do you think that your communication equipment met your long-term needs and your goals? %60% of the people that we asked said yes and 40% said no. Some people weren't ready as they waited for their AAC equipment. Some people had equipment on home trial. Some people worried that their AAC equipment wasn't powerful enough. Question 8. How long did you wait for your communication equipment? The feedback that we received was as the following. 0 to 4 weeks was 17.6%, 1 to 2 months was 17.6%, 3 to 6 months was 17.6%, 6 months or more was 17.6%. 12% of the people never answered this question. Some people thought that they waited too long. Some people were still going through this process. Some people were still trialing their AAC equipment. Question 9. When you received your AAC equipment, did you think that you were given enough support on how to use your AAC equipment? 52.22% of the people agreed that they received enough support on how to use their new AAC equipment. 31.27% said that they did not receive good support on how to use their new equipment, and 16.51% of the people didn't answer this question. The feedback on this question was that some people thought that the speech therapist wasn't familiar in the area of AAC technology. One person was asked to drive to England for AAC equipment training. Question 10. We asked the users of the communication equipment, did your speech therapist discuss a follow-up plan after your support had finished? The feedback from this question was that 33.33% of the people said yes, They did receive a follow-up visit from the speech therapist. 44.44% said no and 22.23% never answered this question. Some people thought that it was difficult to contact the speech therapist. Some people thought that speech therapists need more training in the area of AAC in general.
We would like to thank everyone who was involved in this survey.
Bye
Bye for now.